Need to know how to heal your health? Where do you even start? Well, in this episode, we will hope to enrich you with exactly that. So, before we get into it, if you are enjoying these Time to Thrive Live episodes, I would really appreciate if you could hit the little like button, leave a little comment below what you think about it, and subscribe, I guess, if you haven't already, if you do want to see more, and let's get into it.
Oh, yes, it does. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone who does not already know you on this interweb? How have you come to be Rebecca? Who is Rebecca?
Oh God, that is a long one.
Just
Ready
a
if you
brief
begin.
summary of who
Well,
you are in this world. What do you identify as for anyone who doesn't know you?
I think most people, for starters, call me Reb. I
Oh,
got
no
I
one
got
calls
the
you Rebecca.
no barely anybody, like only if I'm in trouble I get called that now. Or
Okay.
it's like a
Rebecca
government
was like,
letter or something.
Rebecca, what have you done? Sorry, so Reb, would you like to introduce yourself then, Reb?
And I went on a massive journey, like massive health journey that started in mental health and then became a chronic health condition. And I started sharing my journey online first to just be a positive voice in going through circumstances that were negative, to try to inspire other people going through the same thing, that you can have a positive mindset and still have days that aren't great. And that's what it started as. And then as I again threw myself into trying to find the answer to get better, my page and my voice online evolved into helping other people transform their lives like I've transformed mine, because going from wheelchair to walking is just a transformation that I still don't even believe happened.
I know,
It's like
you're
it
like,
happened
how did I actually do that? Oh my goodness, I am a miracle.
I wouldn't go that far.
I honestly think that about myself, though. I'm like, I am a walking miracle. Like, whenever you have achieved such a massive thing for yourself, I think it's really important to actually reflect on how incredibly remarkable that is. And to anyone
Yeah.
else, like for me, for example, seeing you, I'm like, wow, like she is so inspiring for everything she's achieved. And I'm like, goodness, people would have a lot to learn from everything that you've managed to recover from. And we've had so much chats about what are we actually going to talk about here, because you have, recovered from anorexia, fibromyalgia, depression, anxiety, wheelchair to walking. You've actually achieved incredible goals in your health that people struggling with those things often will live with for the rest of their lives, Reb. So the fact that you've actually taken control of your health to really get through that and now be teaching others those things is just, it's something to really like give yourself a pat in the back, like, here, this is actually really good. Like, I'm
I
a
am
force for good in the world.
I am big on self-praise, because for as long as I can remember, being through my past, my childhood trauma, I
Mhm.
self-praise was not something that I did.
No,
Self-praise was not anywhere near
absolutely detesting every part of your fiber of your being. You're
perfect.
literally
I
loathing. So to get to that
100%.
place of love and like actually it's different.
Yeah, you have to celebrate yourself. And I find that the clients that I work with, it's something that most people don't do, and they think it's big-headed. And it's like, no, no, no,
Yes.
no. Like,
Yeah.
you're always going to be a bigger cheerleader for yourself than you. You know what you've overcome more than anybody else. So you have to be your number one cheerleader. You have to be
Oh,
your own
yeah, I've
inspiration.
always said this, like literally number one cheerleader, like cheer for everyone else, all the other queens in the world, fix
Yes.
their crowns, but
Yeah.
cheer for yourself first and foremost. You have to, because no one is
100%.
anyone else going to cheer for you if you're not cheering for you first.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
That's
that's a
my
massive,
philosophy.
a massive thing. So basically, you have done a lot with, coming back, and that you have developed sort of a framework that obviously to work with you one on one, you would get a more tailored approach, as is the same with everything I do. But
Exactly.
for anyone watching this right now that they could actually have actionable steps to go through if they are dealing with, any sort of change they really would like to make in their life, because everyone has something that they could work on right now. To change. We all, I think, should strive to continually improve and evolve as humans. We shouldn't stay stagnant. So there's always something, and so everyone, I really do feel, will be able to get something from this 7-step framework that you've developed.
Where this framework came from was I was applying it in my own life without knowing I had a framework. And the more I thought about it, when I was then trying to help my clients with what I had overcome, I'm like, I have a framework for this. I have like a model I follow to do these things and these steps that I'm now taking clients through the same sort of one. So then I created a webinar based on that, a free webinar for people, because this information should be out there. And later on, I'll get on to why this information should be out there. But these steps came about from just sitting down and actually setting something out for people that is free, that could help them change their life today. And so I figured it was just 7 steps. But as you said, for the individual, not every step. Some are going to be really good at one step and some are going to be terrible at the next step. So it's kind of like it does have to be tailored to each person. But I think the first one that I always kick it off with, because it was a massive, people think that, like, right, taking back control of my health, I need to change my diet, I need to change my exercise, I need to do all the surface level stuff, and they don't realize that it goes so much deeper than that. And for me, beginning, I had to create an environment for myself to heal. I had to create that environment for me to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And so one of the first things that I had to do was put in boundaries with the people around me. Were they draining me? Were they making it harder for me to get better? Was I giving all of myself to them and leaving nothing for me to research how to get better and apply these things to get better? Was I leaving any time for that? I wasn't. And I had to
really important to start there before you get into anything else, because you can try and do 101 things, but if you've got bullies all around you and people holding you back, like, you're only going to be, like, it could take you way, way longer other than actually creating those boundaries. And I do think that takes a lot of strength.
It really does. And it's so weird that that's the foundation of so much change in life. Like, even my body confidence girls that are going through that course, that's one of the first things they have to learn as well, but to flourish.
That's probably the hardest thing to do. And like friendships and family and everything, that can be a really, really difficult thing to actually, put those boundaries in place and distance yourself from drains and really only focus on surrounding yourself with the good and knowing that you're worthy of that, and not just being around people because you always have been. Like, actually, if you want to change your life, nothing changes if nothing changes.
I find that a large portion of people are not bad, and they're not even bullies. They are just, maybe they have to work on themselves.
No, it's not it's just they don't have bad intentions. It is just that they're not realizing the negative impact they're having on you. I think that's what it really comes down to.
Exactly. And sometimes that can be, cutting out toxic people as well, and that's where it becomes hard, because say a family member isn't toxic, or a friend isn't toxic, but you have to explain to them that you need more time for you. People think you're selfish. I have been called selfish and self-centered and all of that, because I was putting my health first. And it's like, I can't give to anybody if I don't first pour into my own cup. Like, I was housebound. I was having more bad days than good. Now, at the start, when I was first ill with fibromyalgia, I had good days, which meant I could get out of the house and I could walk and I could take my dogs out. And I lived in Bangor, so I was beside the sea. So on those good days, they were good days. But I was just having more and more bad ones where I couldn't leave the house because I was in so much pain. And I then had to take that drastic measure, which meant then following on from that and putting those boundaries in place, which meant healing was a lonely journey for me. Like, I felt like I became this member of this chronic illness community online through Instagram, and everybody that has been through, like, yourself sharing your story, you find people that have had similar stories. And I always feel really lucky that I had my partner throughout it, because the healing journey was extremely lonely, even though I had him. And so I can only imagine, and I know I don't have to imagine, because I had friends that were going through it on their own, where they had to then put those boundaries in place and they had to heal on their own as a result. So it takes so much strength. But look at like where I am now, and look at where those
I
people are
know.
now, because they've put their healing first.
Well,
And so
Reb, I don't know if you know about me, but I isolated myself from the world. I didn't speak to anyone for 2 whole years. So I
I only
totally
found that
know.
out recently.
Yeah, like going through that healing journey, I healed myself on my own with no mental health support, no help from friends or family. You do it yourself, and it's incredible you actually had your boyfriend, like, and but that
It
he
is.
was a positive actual help and facilitator in that process. But that, yeah, and I think that comes a lot to, say we're giving people sort of a framework here, but some people might be able to work through that themselves, but often a lot of people do need a coach or some sort of facilitator to really bring them through every step, so that they don't just flail and give up at the first one. And it's too hard, because this is quite difficult. It's not just like an easy thing to just be able to go from being severely depressed and never able to leave the house to living a life of freedom and thriving. The same with going from being in a wheelchair to walking. You could really settle for that life of pain and crippling existence, what I can imagine, and not fight back, and but actually taking control and say, no, I deserve better, and going for that takes a lot.
Yeah, and I think because I had already been healing my mental health for so many years before that, and I became interested in personal development through that, I had self-worth. And I think that's where a basis of a lot of this. And when I work with clients about boundaries, it's like, do you know that you're worthy of boundaries? That you are worth your
You
own
actually
time?
have to instill that into people, because they literally believe they're hopeless and just not feeling worthy of even anyone's time. People are apologizing for speaking to me, like, oh, sorry, I'm not going to bother you anymore. And I'm just like, I ask, why do you think you're bothering me? That is actually something to really work on and heal. You, like, you're not bothering people by asking for help.
There's so much work in every individual one, but to finish off that one, the final step in that is creating systems for someone. So setting yourself up for success, whether that be, for me, for example, I have obviously had to lose weight for my health as well. So this is just an example. So, me meal prepping and
Yeah,
knowing
all
my
those little goals that come into the big overarching goal, the actionable steps in each.
Exactly. So it's like, have the environment created and then create a system within that environment for your success. So all the wee things that will set you up for that, that is the foundation of like all of that. The second one is becoming a grade A researcher. Now, doctors hate to see you come in with a Google search. And we'll get on to doctors later, but
We won't.
I honestly wouldn't have healed or been gone from wheelchair to walking or any of these things, like healing my mental health, any of it, without researching. And people kind of, as you said before, they accept their fate, and they just like they don't bother looking up anything. And I was constantly like looking up everything that could have been helping me, and I was trying this and trying that, and nothing was working, and things weren't being effective, and all all that sort of thing. And then I realized I need to treat myself like a science experiment. I need to kind of journal what I'm doing and what I'm trying, and seeing how that affects my pain, how that affects my mental health. So whether it be, your diet and you're trying to change your weight, whether it be your mental health, your chronic illness, disability, whatever it is, treat yourself like a science experiment and track your progress through that. And yeah, I think that's probably for like everything that I've done: depression, anxiety, fibromyalgia, all of it. It's all been done through that research. But that's all, that's like the smallest probably one of it.
I am very much the same in that, I was offline for those 2 years. I isolated, not speaking to anyone. My best friends were pens and books, and I literally, was just writing and learning and healing, because do you know what? Like, it actually it takes time, and it's hard work, and a lot of people will avoid and distract themselves from doing this hard work. that really could actually transform their lives, and just settle for this life much lower vibration than they could really be experiencing. So yeah, I think that actually, doing that their work is really quite difficult, but it's hella worthwhile, right?
It really is. It's transformative. Like, yourself, it's what you've done, what I've done. There's more than us that attest to this, so we can't all be wrong.
Exactly. People have made remarkable transformations, and you think, gosh, you might think, oh, it's just for them, but no, it's for you too, and it's for everyone to have a life worth living that feels,
Exactly.
incredible to them. So, well, we'll move on to number 3.
Leads on from what you were saying, though, that living a life worth living. That's what the third point is. It's live life to the full. And so I will never bash my past self that was in the wheelchair. I will never say my life was terrible. My life was hard. My life was hard at certain points, but I found a way whilst I was disabled. And I wasn't a wheelchair user that could get myself around. I couldn't push myself. I was too heavy. I didn't have the strength. So I had to rely on Tom to take me everywhere, which, as somebody who in her head is fiercely independent, relying on someone that much, that is a hard thing. But even in those circumstances, I found a way to live life to the full. And I was running mental health events for free for people to help them and show them like a way to heal, and spoke on the radio I don't know how many times, and have been helping people online and doing courses. And, my life didn't stop because I was in the wheelchair. And I think people need to realize that people get into this comfortable mindset of like, this is my lot, and so they try to accept it. And it's okay to accept your current reality, because I didn't know I was going to be able to go from wheelchair to walking. I didn't know if I was going to be successful in that, but it didn't mean I wasn't going to try.
Yes, have an intention of where you want to be, whether or not you actually get there or not, at least you've set the intention and you're trying.
Exactly. And not everybody will be able to go from wheelchair to walking, because that's not physically possible for some people.
Of course, disclaimer alert.
So it's like, but the way that I've always looked at this, and with sharing this online, because I shared my entire journey on my page, was that I'm gonna live life to the fullest now, whilst trying to improve my situation. And if I could, at the very least, improve my mindset and how I see life, how I am experiencing this, and I'm not in a place of suffering. I'm in a place of, I have hard days, but I'm not in a place of suffering. I'm in a place of, I know I'm working towards improving myself, but I'm also living life to the full. And that completely, like, life is not as hard. It really, really isn't. And that's where I talk about perspective and gratitude, and basically what I could do instead of what I couldn't. That's
it's
all
that mindset shift that every, two people can be experiencing the exact same reality, but that their lives are completely different just due to their mindset on it.
100%. And that's why I started my page all those years ago, and it was just to try to help
people's perspective. If they were in that position, you think, oh goodness, well, she is exactly the same as me, so maybe I could actually have a better life living like this as well.
Somebody could see you with the same condition, and they could see that you're in pain, and they could see, well, why is she happy if I'm not happy? And I'm like that. And that's
exactly.
So that's why I shared that. So I always say to people to, like, when you're doing your journal, and if you are doing the research and stuff, if you are kind of monitoring yourself for your mental health, always start or finish or both the day with gratitude, and try to find, even on the days that you're suffering, because I've had some really hard days throughout that, but even in those, I still had things to be grateful for, even if it was literally my dogs, which who wouldn't be grateful for dogs, but
like literally, I have books upon books over many years now of gratitude every single day, and I can look back on like what I was grateful for 10 years ago, and how incredible is that. Like, and through those 2 years in the house, I was the exact same every single day. Some days I wrote 10 in 2 seconds, and other days it took me hours to find 3, and I still pushed myself to do that gratitude, because literally the more you're grateful for, the more you will the more you will get to be grateful for. And I'm such a big believer in gratitude and really grooving with gratitude, because I don't think people understand how incredible the power of gratitude really is.
It is, because it also shifts that victim mentality, and
it has such a knock-on effect into other areas of your life too.
It does. And when you're experiencing, all those symptoms, and you have, the odds stacked against you to begin with all these physical and mental things going on, you're
definitely not going to harm you, is it?
Well. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's the way that I looked at it going into the wheelchair to walk and transformation, hoping that I would be able to do it, was, if at the very least that I've just changed how I see my life, I'm happy with that. Like,
exactly.
The fourth one is, I honestly cannot express how important it is, and you will know this, it's resilience.
Yeah.
Building resilience in the face of setbacks, because on those journeys, I'm sure you're aware of how many setbacks that you have.
Yeah, and don't just give up because you've tried one thing and it's not working. People will try, like, say they've tried one antidepressant or whatever it is, that's just something very basic, and they're like, oh, well, that didn't work, so I'm screwed forever then. There's nothing else. There's no CBT, or there's no, like, anything else. Like, they don't even think about that. It's just like, well, then I'll just settle. And there's, like, you can try 101 different things before you find the thing that's actually going to help you.
Exactly. And, like, even people will say, oh, I've tried therapy. They've tried one therapist.
I know.
You don't get that you have to kind of vibe with your therapist for it to work.
And how many, I don't know how many therapists you've actually vibed with and haven't just been complete melters who are running through a checklist here and not actually dealing you as a human being, and it's very difficult to find a therapist that is actually, really empathic and understands you. So yeah, I do think there's a lot to be said for that, and finding some sort of help that is beneficial for you, and not to give up whenever you've tried something and that it hasn't worked, to keep on going and knowing that you deserve to keep on fighting for what you deserve, really.
I myself, being on antidepressants, had to go through, I don't know how many, but I don't know if it was just from my journey that before I started reading about resilience and actually learning about it and learning how to kind of implement it more. I don't know if I have a natural resilience in myself, as in my personality. I don't know, but with them at the beginning, like, before I started reading about all that stuff, I had to go through so many before anything started to help. And if I had given up at any of those times, I would have remained where I was, and God knows where I'd be now, if I hadn't done that. And that's where I kind of, in that step with people, I'm saying, right, so I know how hard this setback is, and I know it's really hard that this hasn't worked, but there are 20 other of these things that you should be trying.
Yeah.
And what you need to get you through that is your why. Why do you, what do you want on the other side of this trying and failing process?
Really holding that in your mind, at the forefront of your mind through any of your decisions.
Yeah. So it's like, you give up that. So at the start, I would get them to visualize, what it's like. And I always, for me, I used to get butterflies in my belly, imagining, being able to eventually horse ride one day, and being able to paddleboard and be able to just walk my dogs myself with no one. Like it was great. I say living life to the full in the wheelchair. I literally walked them like a chariot in the wheelchair, where Tom pushed me and I walked the dogs. So it's like, you adapt during those times.
But that was your freedom that you crafted, and you were like, I'm going to do this. But I think there's a massive thing to be said about visioning. Whenever, I was like there in the house, not speaking to anyone, I was, envisioning myself in all sorts, all the, like, West End shows I was going to perform on, and I was just this, like, lit up girl, and I have, whenever I, like, sort of look at myself now, and there's sort of just moments that you're like, wow, that was what I dreamed of, that they were all the things that I wanted, and hey, look at me now, like, literally, and they were so far from what you were living, but you still dreamed. And I think people really should be a child again and dream go for the stars, because at least you're just thinking bigger than and trying to get better than what you are now. Because I
Yeah.
mean, you don't lose anything by dreaming, actually.
I think people, the fear of not getting it is what they think that they're losing, so they protect themselves by not going for it.
Yeah, but
You
I
know,
think like whenever you are envisioning that and actually keeping it in your mind and doing it every day, like you actually do subconsciously be accelerating towards that. As long as you do take the steps to get there, obviously, and you don't just dream about it and do nothing, you need action.
that's the thing. And I think in the age of the law of attraction, people mistake that, where they have it in the hell. I thought about that, nothing happened. I'm like, but did you take any steps towards it or
Yeah,
any
I think
action?
that is actually
No.
quite missing in like The Secret and stuff, which a lot of people love. It deals very much with thinking about it and all this stuff, but yeah, you have to do.
Yeah, you do.
Dream
Like,
and do. You don't just dream, you can dream your life away.
I have massive dreams for Rise with Reb, like huge dreams. But that's not what got me. Now, this is what's crazy. Most people be like, oh my God, that's nothing. But for me, these were massive things that were the small things. Like the thought of, I'll walk down the street now and it'll just hit me that 2 years ago I couldn't
Yeah.
walk my own dogs and I'm walking them now. And
It's those very little things that through writing your gratitude and stuff, though, that you're like, oh, wow, then you can reflect back on, goodness, I couldn't do that, and now I can. And just celebrating those little mini wins that to you are massive, and to anyone
yeah,
else is just like, well, that's normal.
exactly. But everybody will have some of those. And that was they were the sort of things that give me butterflies of, where I felt like, right, I'm aligned with this why. My why is so strong. And I honestly feel like that's a big part of why I was able to do what I do, because I like, you won't believe this, I actually watched The Secret. I'd never really heard of it, and I watched it at the start of this journey. I was like, right, I started imagining walking the girls and doing exercise again, and weightlifting and doing all these amazing things. And I wrote it down in a book. And I was like, by my next birthday, I will be out of my wheelchair. And I actually was.
Oh my, unbelievable. That one goal here, I think there's something, really about that you set a goal and a deadline, and you will do everything in your power to make that happen.
Exactly. And there were other wee ones in there as well that actually happened as well. But that was always like, I wrote the other ones down, but I even wrote them down and forgot about them, half of them, and then they still happened. But the main one, that was the one that I felt the butterflies every day in my belly of like, this is gonna happen, this is really gonna happen. But if it doesn't as well, I'm a very content person, and I will constantly improve to strive, to get better.
Regardless. And I think, as you said, you forgot about the other ones. So people would say, actually write your goal on a bit of card and put that in your pocket or on you in your purse or whatever, so that you always have it, so that you're seeing it every day, whether it's on your wall, so that you're actually seeing, and write it as though it's already here, hey, my name is Reb and I can freely walk, or whatever, like something like that, so that you're embodying that existence that you want to embrace. We did sort of touch on it before, the next one about being confident, and I don't think we should really get into against your health professionals, because that is really, really difficult, and a lot to be accounted for. But maybe you would like to touch on that briefly.
Yeah, well, the thing that I came up against was a lot of resistance in my healing journey from health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that, they weren't invested in my recovery. And this is what I try to teach people. Your doctor, who has 5 million other patients that day, is not going to be, or the receptionist or the nurse, they're not going to be as invested in your recovery as you are. So you have to be the person that takes control. So you can't rely on them to do that referral. You can't rely on them to try that new medication. That all has to come from your own research. And
you can wait your life away on, because if waiting lists are 2 years, you can't just wait 2 years, to get your health back. Like start
Well,
now, start today.
that's the reason that I have this section, because I waited 5.5 years to be seen for my fibromyalgia, and now it's managed. In that time, I was able to. I did have to go and see someone, but in going and seeing that one person and doing everything that I've done, I didn't need them when they rang me. They were like, "Oh,
That's
we're following up
truly
again."
shocking. Like 5 years.
5 years, swear to God. And mine was longer because my doctor said he referred me and he didn't. It was 9 months longer than that. But the point of it is that on that list, and it's why I give out the free webinar. That's when I was going to talk about this, because I I waited about a year and a half, 2 years to see the pain clinic, which is one of the first things that you would get referred to. So it's one of the shorter lists.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already doing all these things, but I was like so excited. I'm like, this is the thing that's going to make me better. And that's before all the things we've talked about before my mindset was so focused on going from wheelchair to walking and going, as strong as it would be now. And I got there and had all these really high expectations. And they started, so what are you doing? And I listed everything I was doing. They were like, oh, wait, we can't do anything for you then. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, you're already doing everything we would suggest. So I waited a year and a half, 2 years to be told things that I got off Google. So that's why I did this webinar, because
There's a lot you
all
can do yourself
yeah,
if you just do the research. Yeah.
exactly. So everything that they would have suggested on that list for chronic pain, fibromyalgia, now that's specific to me, specific to fibromyalgia. These are things that I tried, and they wanted me to go to the support group to help other people, and I'm like, I'm already doing that online. I'm not getting 2 buses to go to the support group for you guys, but like that.
Volunteering. Well, I mean, how good is that though, that you were sort of seen as like an advocate for the people in that community, through
Yeah.
everything you had actually just done yourself.
At that time, this is before I was put in the wheelchair, so this is before things got worse. Things got worse for me before they got better. But at this point, my eyes started to open to the fact that we need to be responsible for our own health.
Yeah.
So if everybody on that waiting list did what I did in that time, now I tried loads of different things and loads of them didn't work, but there are things that worked for other people. Like I know many people that did the things that I did and it worked for them. So
Yeah.
think of how much smaller that list would be by the end if people were doing this stuff now. So I put out that webinar to empower people with this information.
Yeah.
So it's out there, it's online,
Yeah.
it's there for you now. You can take back control of your health today. You don't have to wait 2 years to be told stuff.
Yeah.
That like everything I learned already, they said, oh no, right, well, we can't do anything because you're it's
Yeah.
out there, and so that's
And I feel like I should thank you on behalf of everyone who, would potentially need this for creating that webinar. And there's a guidebook associated with that as well that they can go on to your website and access themselves if, they want to go through this in greater detail than we're just discussing in this episode.
That's what drove my passion for it. It was all those sort of feelings of people need to know that
they deserve to, and too many people would just wait and wait and wait and wait and do nothing within that time when they could actually be empowering themselves and just going after.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not saying cancel an appointment, take the appointment, but do everything you can
in the meantime.
And you could possibly solve your problem before you get there. And that's what I think people don't know. And I waited on various lists throughout those 5 years to get to a doctor. And then, like when I had the back problem and I was in the wheelchair, they didn't know what was wrong. Nobody knew. No doctor. No physio.
So you could end up actually very disappointed whenever you do get the appointment that you've been waiting on for so long, because you could get someone that just doesn't understand you or tells you that, oh yeah, this is the wrong service or something, or you have to go and wait another 5 years on that other service. So next one would be then, I think, is labeled very well because I love good alliteration. Pain with purpose. And I sort of felt like it was interesting about learning to deal with chronic pain, because that could be physical or mental, or emotional or traumatic. There's a lot of actually that comes into pain that isn't just the physical pain that you would experience.
Yeah, like you'll find that a lot of people develop mental health issues because they're in chronic pain, or
Yeah,
because,
it's
when
been through
I
trauma or whatever that may be.
exactly, like it's a knock-on effect. I have been through childhood trauma, so I had a mental illness at a very young age. So I had that already before any of this. But I know so many friends in that community that had perfect mental health, and then they got sick, and then their mental health just went downhill. And
Um,
so they had to then learn how to deal with this new thing. And so I always I don't like things being pointless. And I like looking at the world and my life, and I think everybody should look at their life as what is, whoever your higher power is, or whether you have none or not, what is the lesson that the universe for me, is trying to teach me from this,
mm,
and for me, I had to, in that rehab process, 2 years ago, I had to walk through, for 6 months, I had to push my wheelchair everywhere, because when I went to see the rehab guy down south, who finally somebody knew what was wrong with my back, and he was able to fix it, but the damage was done, and it, there was muscle damage there now, and that wasn't going to go away easily. And so I was in the
mhm.
exact amount of pain. I still couldn't walk any or walk or stand for any longer. I had about 3 minutes on the clock, and either my legs went or the pain was too much. I had to sit down. And for 6 months, when I went to see him, I said, I'm not going to be pushed in the chair again, because that's telling my brain that I'm going to fail before I even start. So I
Mm.
pushed that chair everywhere for 3 minutes, sat down for a minute, got up, 3 minutes, anywhere I went for those 6 months. And that amount of excruciating pain that you're almost like self-inflicting, I had to have a purpose behind it. And it was all those things from before, where we were talking about our why, all
Mhm.
of those things that drove my purpose. I know what's on the other side of this pain, and that's what I'm fighting through this pain for. And when I have been in horrific mental health, I know what it feels like to feel good and with my
Mhm.
mental health, and feel happy. And I'm
Mhm.
holding on during this tough moment for my mental health, because I know what's on the other side of that pain.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I've always looked at it, where I don't want pain to be pointless. That's just how
Oh,
I've always seen pain.
yeah. And tracking your progress with that as well, and you become an expert on yourself, and that's quite empowering.
It is.
You're not relying on like doctors. Obviously, a lot of people, need that there because they're not mentally able to do it themselves. But to actually be the number one advocate for yourself and the number one expert, where you actually are really mindful of you and your abilities, that's really the secret to thriving on your own terms.
100%. I think people don't realize, and this is what I say all the time, you don't realize the power you have within you to
Yeah.
change whatever it is you're going through that you're not happy with. You don't have to accept it. You can practice non-attachment to the outcome, but
Yeah.
get excited about what you could possibly do if you
Yeah.
apply yourself.
I don't
And
know if you know that song, I got the key, I got secret, I got the key to another way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have the power. You don't even need, like, you have the key within you that
yeah,
you are your power.
yeah. I think with the pain, especially, part of it being, with a purpose, was I was tracking everything that I did as well.
Yeah.
So I was like walking and seeing if I could walk a wee bit further, or doing, because I
Yeah.
started the gym at that time. So I was pushing the wheelchair into the gym. I would sit for most exercises. I would use the 3 minutes for the ones I had to stand, and then I'm sitting again. And
Yeah.
I
And
had to
that
track
leads
like
into the final step, though, as well, about exercise. That might have been something way beyond your wildest dreams of
yeah,
exercise whenever you were in a wheelchair, and probably what you heard from health professionals as well. Oh, you'll never do this again. They don't really, oftentimes, I mean, depending on who you have, instill a lot of faith or belief in you. You have to have that belief for yourself, because they tell you you're hopeless and this, that, and the other. And I mean, imagine if you just came to accept that their reality. Goodness, you'd
no, I
never
know.
achieve anything you ever
Like,
wanted.
the medication that I'm on for my nerve pain with the fibromyalgia, it makes you weight loss resistant. And the doctor was like, oh, it's near impossible to lose weight on them anyway, as if like, don't bother trying. And so I was like, challenge accepted, 50 pounds down now. You don't
Like
listen to them.
literally, how, as if the only way, the only thing in this world that would affect your weight would be the fact you're on those tablets. Clearly there's other manipulations you can do to affect your body weight. Never mind
Exactly.
going for a pee.
Exactly, like that's the whole point. But I think when you're going through this process, and whether it is like, largely I'm talking about chronic pain in that part, it's that if you're just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through, you're going to burn out. So tracking that and what you're doing and how that affected your body and how much pain that left you in is so vital that you can't ignore that. You have to be so in tune with your body and what it's able to do and how it feels as a result of what you're doing to push it. So right, I did too much yesterday, I have to scale back today.
Yeah.
So that's something so important, especially when it comes to exercise, because I had so many fibro flares at the beginning. And when you have something like I have, you do have to have a certain amount of push through for that first month of exercise.
Yeah.
Really,
It
really
isn't.
do.
It's always the getting started that's the hardest part. And I think once you get started, and often, even whenever you have got started, there will still be times where you injure something, and to actually just respect yourself through those times. And there may be times that you can't move as much as you once were, and you have to pull back, and not feeling guilty about that, and just hoping for then, and being excited for whenever you can do those things again. And see, whenever you can, it actually makes you appreciate your body so much more, because you're like, wow, this is great that I can actually feel good without pain, because I experienced that pain for so long. The transition, I think, is very important to sort of just really get you into a sense of appreciation for what your body can do beyond what the majority of people would see their body as just a thing to look at.
Yeah, like that was always the thing for me returning to exercise, having recovered from an eating disorder, was I need to push my body to do these amazing things. And it didn't really conflict with, I eventually had to accept the reality that I had to lose weight, and that was very difficult for me, because I was really accepting of my body the way that it was. But I had to kind of remove that and just focus on how my body felt and what it was capable of. And every single day I thanked it.
I think it's very important as well, talking about these things, and having an intention for it to be 15 to 20 minutes, that's the intention, but there was actually so much value really delivered in that. So that, I really appreciate your time, and I just did want to come back on and say, like, thank you so much for everything that you've instilled in others, and everything you do, and just everything you are, really. I think, you're just a remarkable force within this world, and, have so much to really be proud of. I'm really happy and grateful that you have taken the time out to share this with others today, on my channel in particular. So do you want to share with others how they can find you online anyway, so that they can be a part of your world if they feel they need more Reb?
So my Instagram, where I've documented, so you can literally go back and follow the entire journey yourself if you want to do that, although that takes a lot of time. And that's called Rise with Reb. And I have a wee Facebook one as well, which I'm not as active on. And then I also have a website, which is just the same, www.risewithreb.com, where that's where you can get the free webinar. If you want to book a wee free discovery call with me, you could do that on there, any of that sort of thing. And I'm pretty much synonymous with, like, if there's Reb and then there's Rise with Reb, they're pretty much the same person now.
I know, it's quite catchy though, and it's short, so it does work. No, definitely. Me, surviving now thriving. I got a package the other day, striving now surviving, or people think it's surviving not thriving, and I'm like, it's too complicated. But there is, a very strong story in that. And the same with you. Like, I've risen, so come and rise with me.
That is exactly it, honestly. Like, because when
If
I
I
went,
can do it, you can too, kind of thing.
yeah, like my name changed on my page 3 times because it was 3 different phases. And the final one of me getting out of the wheelchair, mentally what I want to help everyone else do, as well. And so it just seemed so
It
perfect.
has such a real story that's very meaningful to you behind it.
Yeah, just like yours as well, even though people get yours wrong, which they shouldn't, but
I know, like it's so obvious, like, surviving, like, no, don't just survive, thrive.
exactly.
But people think, a lot of people do think that surviving, like, yeah, that's enough, so that they're not
Oh, yeah.
actually really thinking about even thriving. Whereas I believe, we should all thrive.
I'm so on your wavelength with that. And I think that's when I found your page. It was your name that drew me to it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this name. And then I go in and then I read everything that you've overcome. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, I know, because I always say, like, we're not here to simply survive. We all deserve to thrive. And honestly, to just actually know that within yourself and feel that empowerment, it can take a lot of time, though, as we have been our biggest bullies. And, we don't just come these glowing goddesses by the click of a switch. It doesn't, it takes that work. It took me years upon years. It took you years of struggle.
Yeah.
But your struggles craft your strength, and you grow through what you go through. And, if we can be a help in that process, then we'd love to.
Exactly. That's what we're all about. Helping other people see that they can do it as well.
We're all in this together. You've got me in a real singing mood now. No, thank you so much. I find that just really, really helpful. And I honestly really, really appreciate your time. It's been so, so enjoyable talking to you and just hearing what, you've gone through. And it's just beautiful, really.
It was just lovely to meet you too, because you chat to somebody, but you never get the real person until you meet them. Even through Zoom, you get a good feeling. It's just been awesome to chat, honestly.
I know, it could be really nice to go for a walk in Bangor or something, like with the dogs, or to actually meet you in person someday. And what time in a distant past I would have came and offered to wheel you in your wheelchair, and now you can walk.
That would have been awesome. But like, even like, here's beautiful this time of year as well, so you're welcome anytime. And the dogs, well, my husky loves people, my other one's afraid of them, so
okay, well, I mean, at least there's one out of two then that will love me.
You'll get kisses from the husky, definitely.
Oh no, that would be really, really nice. I think it is very important to connect with people who are on your wavelength, and it is hard to find your tribe, no matter what experience you're living in. You can often feel very isolated.
I've definitely found that here, especially working within the personal development sector.
Yeah,
it's 2 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps behind America and this sort of thing. The UK is a wee bit further forward, and here is not where they are. So it is, and it's my job and it's my passion, because it's something I just love to learn about as well. And finding people that are also just want to develop themselves and always be their best self is a difficult thing to find. But I think that's why what we do is so important, is to show people there's another way.
Yeah, you're seen as actually an alien, and I think even you have to be mindful who you even say these things to and send them to the right people, because otherwise, like, you will literally just be laughed at, and like, who do you think you are? And it can be really negative and detrimental to just how you feel and how you're showing up. I guess the very first step of your framework, creating an environment that you actually are able to do what you want to do and not be held back by everything around you.
Exactly, dropping the weight of those opinions, because really your most important relationship is with yourself, not with anyone else. Because when you close the door at night, you're on your own. When like it's when you have to spend time by yourself, like you have, you realize that you have to get to like yourself real quick.
Nobody is coming to save you. That's why I'm out here as my own Wonder Woman, like.
Me too. Like,
I just, you have your own cape on, but yes, I will let you go, and I will hopefully see you soon, darling.
That would be brilliant, especially with the weather like this.
Oh yeah, I'd really like to come down. Well, I'll definitely hit you up about that, and we'll get that scheduled in. It'd be great.
That'd be brilliant. I'm looking forward to it. The dogs as well.
Okay, we'll see you later, love.
Later. So
Thank
nice
you
meeting
so
you all.
much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Let us know below if this has helped you in any way. We really hope it has. Come connect with me more over on my Instagram at Surviving Now Thriving. And until next time, I shall